Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Slice of the Reef, our new podcast that demystifies the art of saltwater fish keeping. My name is Billy.
And I'm Giancarlo, aka Banana or Fishy Fish. We're going to be your guides today into the amazing world beneath the waves, but also in the box in your living room. Crazy, huh?
Enjoy and easy reefing. All right.
Hey guys, and welcome to today or this week's episode of Slice of the Reef. We are your hosts, Banana, and then Billy. I almost said your name first, and I realized you're talking about.
Yeah, you get first billing.
I get first Billy.
Good caller.
Tall people problems. Yeah, we are Giancarlo / Banana, and then Billy / Billy.
Just Billy.
Just Billy. So basic. We're coming at you here in the land of the nothing. I mean, we're everywhere. We're on the West Coast, so greetings from the West Coast. And today's episode is about clownfish. We're going to talk about clownfish and clownfish harems, and we're not going to talk about breeding clownfish. So we're going to touch on the topic because breeding is a whole mess and a half. But yeah, where do you want to get started? With how's your tanks doing?
Everything's bouncing back up. I was having some issues with my anemones last week because I tried to treat two in the same tank, which you can't really do. But they're all separated out now. So the Hayden eye, which was bleaching a little bit, is now stabilized. And the perculas are chilling in the treatment tank for that one. But then I have my bleached Gigantea just chilling in like a 5-gallon bucket. I'm going to upgrade it to a big major upgrade to a 10-gallon.
That's good.
Just so it's easier to do dosage and stuff.
Oh.
So I don't have to divide things in two whenever I'm doing my treatments. And I finally moved the main Gigantea, the big brown one, brown and green, to a little display tank, a little 15-gallon.
Well, that's good, finally.
And it's enjoying all the extra space. It's taking up maybe half the width of the tank.
Why?
So I will need to upgrade that soon.
Oh God.
And that was like the smallest size I could buy. That's how big Giganteas are.
They get big. They get really, really big, and they don't stop there. They actually get bigger than that.
Chungus.
They're big chungy.
Big chungus.
Big chungus.
Well, the Giganteas actually only get 2 feet wide.
Right. Relative to the tank that they're in now. So,
which is a 1.5 feet.
I mean, they're in what, like a 15-gallon right now?
Yeah. So it's fun. How about you? How's your tank doing at home?
Tank at home's doing great. The zebra tank eating, fighting. Okay, so when we feed algae, the current issue that we're having is that the Achilles tank is going after the soho and the zebra tank, which is hilarious because if all the fish in the saltwater hobby, I think soho are deemed to be some of the most aggressive fish. The ones that I've had are fairly docile. So we're trying to feed more algae in order to prevent that from happening, because I know once you feed more algae to tanks, they kind of get used to the algae, and the reason that they fight a lot of the time is because of how much of a limited supply there is. So the more algae there is, the better, the better chances you've got of keeping them. Also,
did you put a mirror up to the side?
Yeah, we've tried that. It creates more stress than it's worth. We had less fish maybe, but with all the fish that we have, now we suddenly have fish that do actually go ham with it. Like you'll see the clownfish, the mandarin dragon that loves fighting itself in the mirror. And it doesn't understand that it just can't get through to it. It doesn't. So he'll spend the entire day or the entire evening just hitting and bopping and going ham at the mirror. And there's not much we can do after that. So we just feed a lot of nori. Everyone always wants to know what's the secret to a lot of tanks. You just feed a lot of nori.
And don't just drop it in the tank either. There's a method that you have to use. Do you know the method?
So you can do type acclimation, or what you can do is you put it inside of this acclimation box, which is a small acrylic box. You put that in the tank. The other fish will try to attack said new tank, but they'll really just be attacking the glass. It'll stress out both fish, but it's a lot better than just dropping the fish in directly. But that's all for another episode. The acclimation process, and
I was talking about how to feed the algae. So you can prep the algae in a certain way where it's more effective.
Oh, my form's already effective.
No. I learned this from Worldwide Corals, so grain of salt. But I've also seen it done at my local fish stores. I've just never asked them about it.
Oh, yeah, this is the one where they cut the little strips of it, and the tank takes it like the little lottery or the little information card thingies.
No. You basically fold up the nori as much as you can to get it like really, really densely layered. And then you wrap a rubber band around it like a crazy number of times. So basically, it's a really dense pellet of nori that's pinned against the rock. And they, instead of just having to like nip it off of a loosely flowing nori strand, they have to actually like graze it off of the rock.
Oh, yeah, I stopped using loosely flowing years ago, dude. I learned that the best way to feed nori is PVC and nori rubber banded to that PVC, and I just drop it in. The nori stays on, the tanks eat all of it, no more free floating.
So you take PVC and you do what?
I take PVC. I have it's like a 4-inch piece of PVC, right? I fold a sheet of nori in half, and I rubber band one to each side of that PVC. Then
you put the PVC where?
I have a little fishing line hook. I tie a fishing line to it. I drilled holes in it. I tie fishing line to it, and I just hang it in the tank. And then all the fish go crazy.
So you just admitted that you put PVC in your tank.
Just to feed. Also, PVC makes up my plumbing. I would never, put coral in my PVC. Because that's kind of tacky and outdated. And honestly, people that do that have no taste.
No, I mean, it sounds like you're scared to go all the way and like put PVC in your tank, actually.
I have PVC in my tank. Just, not structurally. Not as
you use it to feed your fish. That sounds pretty important.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
you must be a really big fan of putting PVC in your tank. That's crazy.
Well, Billy, not all of us are filled with plastic. So...
What?
I don't know.
Is that a plastic surgery joke?
It was. Billy got a...
No, I'm all natural. But for context, Banana likes to flame me for using PVC to hold my corals.
And it's not PVC using the whole coral. His aquascape was made up of main PVC. And I don't mean rock in front of PVC. I mean, it was like towers of PVC and coral placed inside of them.
Yeah, because there was no other way for me to actually store corals in multiple levels.
Like rock. Imagine having rock.
No, there's no rock that lets light
has
through.
An aquascape.
Just imagine like a frag rack setup, but
taller. That was his display tank. That was his full display tank.
Yeah, because I focused on the coral. Okay, we could argue about this for 5 years. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm glad you have accepted PVC into your life. What I would do if I was in your place is I would only put the nori on one side, and I would fold it a lot more times. Oh no, I fold twice. They go through it hard. Does not last. Yeah, because it's too easy. It's soft. No, I can't fold it 4 times. It's a sheet of nori. It's a strip of nori. It's like 2 inches by 4 inches. It's so much more than that. Nice. Yeah. Okay, what are we talking about? Clownfish? Yeah, we're talking about clownfish. So I guess you should stop talking about PVC then, probably. So we're going to go through Billy's plastic talk. You're so artificial, Billy. I'm plastic. Yeah, so we're going to talk about clownfish. Who likes clownfish? Billy likes clownfish because he's got a lot of names for them, which is really, really cool. Well, apparently I hate them because I just killed 2 red sea clownfish by putting them in a tank with an anemone that they couldn't host. Yeah, so let's talk about it. Billy, tell us about clownfish. Okay, so they're a type of damselfish, and there's a lot of different types. And some of them have commensal symbiotic relationships with anemones, which is very cool. They're very popular in the reefing hobby because they are very hardy. They are very easily available because they're captive bred, when they breed in captivity, they have like 100 to 200 babies that are relatively easy to raise compared to some other species. And they're pretty, and they're famous from the Finding Nemo movies, so it's kind of a win-win. And that's it. What else is there to say? Well, there's different kinds of clownfish. The most common one that you'll see, which is really, really cool, because it's an example of genetic breeding in the hobby, is the Ocellaris. Selective breeding is the Ocellaris clown. Normally, way back in the day, we used to have the standard Ocellaris, which was like orange and white. And then they came out with a fancy black and white Ocellaris, and everyone was like, oh my God, midnight clownfish, that's so cool. And then came the craziness of it.
where now you've got about 30 to 40 different kinds of Solaris clownfish, and you've got some long fin types, you've got some, black ice, you've got some of them that don't even look like clownfish anymore. The patterns are just so unique where it looks like a cow. The black storm clownfish, that's one of my favorite ones. But yeah. And then clownfish are really cool because when you talk about them in the ocean, like people will just think of them living in dams, but they do play a role in maintaining ecological balance in coral reef systems. Because not only do they live in dams, but they also directly work with the area that's around the dam. So you'll see them that they're one of the few animals that actually host anemones, and not all clownfish do. We'll get into that in a bit. But they'll find protection among the nems of the tentacles, and in return, the clownfish feeds the nem, keeps it clean, it removes debris, it removes parasites. The clownfish actually plays a little bit of a baiting thing, where it'll bait other fish to anemones, and that in return will provide more food for the anemone. They're baiting the fish to its death, which is really, really cool. But it's a little morbid when you think about it.
Yeah,
I've seen cases where clownfish actually clean the algae around the nems, and I'm talking about like long hair, really, really messy algae. So there's another, because the nems need, we talked about last week, but nems need light to survive and to grow, and clownfish actually, they get rid of all the algae and the obstacles that are around the nem to make sure that the nem can grow.
Preventative to make sure that that an anemone isn't starved for light or food.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. It's really cool. But a lot of people don't look at the actual, people don't look at the actual impact that clownfish have on biology or like on the environment or on the ecosystem. But they really do. I mean, some even actually eat zooplankton, and that lives among the nem's tentacles, right? So they do. And it creates a form of propagation by releasing more eggs of zooplankton into the ecosystem. So it's like the bees of the world. Of the
They're just farming zooplankton. That's so cute.
That's basically what they do. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the symbiosis that they have with anemones themselves, can we dive a little deeper on that?
What do you mean?
Well, I learned this the hard way, but it's a lot more complicated than you might think. You can't just take any anemone and any clownfish and drop them in the same tank, and bam, you have a symbiotic relationship. Certain nems will only host certain clownfish, and certain other nems won't host any clownfish at all, because anemones is a very wide genus of species with a lot of different subspecies with very different evolutions, and only some of those evolutions actually are able to or willing to host clownfish.
Yeah, it's actually okay. I thought you meant like what benefits they get. I was like, we just talked about what benefits.
We just talked about it.
But no, so they have a very gradual acclimation of nems, and they slowly get used to the nematocysts from anemones, and then they develop a layer of mucus on their skin, and that prevents them from being harmed by the nem stinging. This usually starts with juvenile clownfish, so clownfish that are raised in tanks where there are nems have a higher chance of obviously hosting. It's cool.
I mean, one thing to think about is before they come to your tank, those captive bred babies. So if you get them from another tank and that tank does not have anemones in it, they basically have no idea how to host. Because in the wild, they learn it from their parents, or they learn it from seeing other clownfish host other nems.
Yep. And yeah, so the mix is actually really, really cool that they prevent. So on one level, okay, it prevents them from being harmed by the anemone, but then the anemone is actually able to detect the mucus and realize and recognize that clownfish are not food, that the clownfish are not food. And so it won't recognize them as prey, which means that they'll be the only ones accepted by the host, which is the anemone. It's something that a lot of people really don't think about. And then, What's up? So as you were saying, not all clownfish are accepted by all nems. That's actually our myth of the week for this week. All clownfish can go in all anemones. That's not true. anemones like Condylactis, for example, which are from the Red Sea, are incapable of hosting most clowns. And I say most because there are some clowns that'll host them. There's always that one freak Ocellaris who tries to get in there, and they're just like happy with the Condylactis. And then that person will post, hey, my Ocellaris hosting my Condi. And then you'll have like 5 or 6 different people try to replicate that. That's not how it works.
And then they all die.
Yeah, then they won't all die. There's always another freak one. But ideally, Condis, for example, they don't really host nems. And at the same time, on the parallel, not all clownfish are capable of hosting nem.
Yeah, mine, before I moved it over to just my display where there's no anemones at all, so he doesn't get stung anymore, mine was hosting the Xenia that I keep in with my Cantia. So he was very happily nestling in the soft coral while completely ignoring anemone because it would sting him and kill him.
Exactly. And clownfish actually prefer different types of nems. Ocellaris are actually very, very attracted to the Magnificus. So, the Heteractis magnifica, they're very, very frequent hosters. Ocellaris.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of the times what you see is a bubble tip, because that's what you have in the hobby. But in the wild, if you were to test different things, Ocellaris would naturally gravitate towards Magnificus. And this is because clownfish, or what we think is that clownfish can recognize anemones via chemical cues. Because when an anemone gets situated, it will start releasing cues in the water that it's there. And this both repels and attracts or fights other nems. But clownfish can recognize these things. Now, we don't really know exactly how or why. It's still something that's due to be studied. But as of right now, that's one of the leading theories, that they can recognize anemones through chemical cues.
Wow. The nose knows.
The nose knows. Yeah.
So, in general, if you are planning on getting a certain type of anemone, or you're planning to get a certain type of clownfish, start from there and figure out from there which other counterpart to get for that thing that you chose. So if you really want a Magnifica, I think most clownfish will host a Magnifica.
Yeah,
those are expensive, so probably don't do that. If you want a bubble tip anemone, which most people really do, you might be surprised to learn that like most clownfish don't natively or instinctively host bubble tips. So you're either going to have to train them to host it, or show it a bunch of videos of clownfish hosting anemone, like bubble tip, or get a maroon clownfish, which I think host them naturally, and then return that maroon clownfish, because maroons are sons of a bitch.
Yeah.
Sons of bitches.
Exactly.
Maroon 5, yeah. Terrible band and terrible clownfish.
Yep. So let's talk about a clownfish tank.
Yes.
Right, and we're going to talk about this in 2 different ways. One, in like the tank requirements. So a clownfish, which is pretty basic, and then we're going to talk about something else, which is something pretty cool. We're going to talk about clownfish harems, and that's something that a lot of people don't touch up on.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Wow. So what kind of tank parameters do you need to keep in order to keep clownfish?
Well, clownfish are fairly simple, and the majority of them are fairly hardy. So they are one of the most easily reproduced fish in the saltwater hobby, just because of and one of the most commonly reproduced fish in the saltwater hobby, just because of how easy it is once you have some experience in the hobby to reproduce them, and how little, the requirement they need. Ideally, you want a tank that's around 20 to 30 gallons for a pair. You can keep a single one in like a 14-gallon, but long term, it's not ideal. And then the care that goes into is just general care for the rest of the fish that are in the hobby, which is like you want average pH around 7 or 7.7 to 8.3, between that, whatever. 0 ammonia. It doesn't care about nitrates or nitrites, and then the average salinity. It doesn't really take too much.
As long as it's the cycled tank, like to the point where there's low or 0 ammonia, you're probably going to be fine. Just also make sure you buy one that's healthy. So make sure in the shop it's eating. Even though it's just a clownfish, you should still check to see if it's eating, because most sicknesses, one of the first symptoms that the fish start showing is that they'll lose their appetite.
Yeah.
Still definitely check for that.
Yeah.
And just kind of acclimate them and drop them in.
Yeah. Clownfish are fairly simple. You just, as far as aquascaping goes, It's just a standard combination of live rock and live sand to establish good biofiltration. After that, just pick the right nem and make the nem happy, and the clown will be happy. If you want a nem, if you don't want a nem, just pick the right thing and they'll be happy.
Or do what I did and get a fake one.
Yeah.
There are Reef safe silicone fake anemones that are basically just big pom-pom balls glued to a rock.
Yeah.
And if you show them enough videos of Clownfish hosting anemones that look like the fake one you got, they will figure it out and they'll start hosting it.
Exactly.
Works like a charm.
Put a monitor right up to the screen of the Clownfish hosting an anemone, and they'll be like, I should do that. He's kidding.
Exactly.
You don't want that.
Well, no, that's exactly what I don't do a monitor. I do a phone because I'm not old like you. But
monitor
would probably work.
Why can't you be like this? The Clownfish is getting all, sad. Why does it really love me? It's because I'm a host.
These YouTube Clownfish are so much skinnier than you are. Wow.
Why can't you be like, see, that Clownfish is all seeing 2 nems. Why can't you be more like that? Why can't you
be more open-minded? Come on.
Yeah, so let's talk about the other aspect of it, and that's harems, Clownfish harems. It's really, really cool. A Clownfish harem is usually what happens when you've got a mass number of clownfish living in one social group, or like in one system. Right now, normally there's a whole thing where if you get 3 or 4 clownfish, you'll get 1 pair, or you'll get 2 pairs, or you'll get 1 female and then the rest of the 2 males will die out. A harem is made of dozens of clownfish, and it has been done in the hobby a few times. I know there's a few aquariums that do it. The Tennessee aquarium that I was at, they have a good clownfish harem going. I think there's another aquarium in DC that's got another clownfish harem going. I think for Resupply, I actually did a Clownfish harem tank, but they took it down because of how difficult it got over time, because they do need a lot of space. They need like a couple 100 gallons to actually work properly. And that's mainly because of how the social groups are structured. So there's usually a dominant female, and the dominant female will lead a group of smaller males. And, once she enables her position, she'll just be courting several males trying to get her attention, and it's pretty cool parental roles once that actually happens. Really, have you ever seen the harem tank?
I've seen the BRS video, but I'd kind of lost interest once I realized how much space they need, because there's like a minimum number of clowns you can have for it to work at all, right? And that number alone needs like probably a 180 to 200 gallon and a lot of space. So I haven't seen one in most public aquariums have more than 2 clownfish in them, right? So Monterey Bay and Aquarium of the Pacific both have like really awesome anemone and clownfish tanks because Nemo and Dory. It's really that simple. And because they're really easy to keep. So I think the one at Aquarium of the Pacific has just like 1 billion different bubble tip anemones of various colors and 20 to 25 skunk clownfish. Which is really cute.
Yeah.
And I think it even has some different species in there too, like because they have 1,000 gallons or more, they can kind of get away with that.
That's not a harem though. That's just a really big tank with a lot of clowns. Which I know it sounds like that's what we just said a harem was.
It's past the point of a harem, and it's just an ecosystem. Right?
It's an ecosystem. A harem, when you have a harem, all the clownfish live together socially, right? Like when they breed, for example, you'll see the female. There's 1 female, right? And she'll be the dominant figure along the whole group. She'll be the primary breeder, like the queen bee kind of thing. She'll choose a male to breed with, and they'll do the courtship ritual where they're doing the wavy up and down bounce, or doing the little aggressive chase thingy. Once they mate, the female lays her eggs near the nem or wherever they want to be, and then the male will take charge of guarding those eggs. So after that happens, the female will go right back to being the charge of the group and being the leader of the harem. And then while the male tends to the eggs, she'll be the one that's guarding the harem, protecting it, and protecting the territory. It's kind of like a queen bee, but they'll also be really aggressive. So she makes sure that the male isn't disrupted, that other clownfish are going there, while at the same time making sure that the harem itself is safe. So, yeah.
She's a boss queen, and she doesn't need no man, but she'll take up to 20 of them.
Wow. We're allowed to say that? think there's a term for that.
Well, no, she'll like allow up to 20 of them into her harem. Harem.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really cool how there's like such a unique social structure in the overall system of Clownfish, right? And the main thing is like people want to know, how do they set this up? How do they set up a harem tank? The biggest thing is you need to have a big enough tank, because this entire thing doesn't happen in one NEM. It'll happen among several NEMs, or usually one. If it is one NEM, it'll be one really, really, really big NEM, which is what Billy could actually do. And he's right though. At first, when you're first getting into the hobby, clownfish are like they're the basic fish. No one wants to see a bunch of clowns in a tank, or no one wants to say, "Hey, I've got this 150 gallon available. I'm going to make a clownfish harem tank." Until they actually see the hosting happen, until they actually see the system or the ecosystem and learn that clownfish harems are a thing, and then does the whole concept of a clownfish harem become kind of cool. But at that point, they've already got the tank set up, so they're not going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to take all this other stuff out and put a clownfish harem in." No. Now they do get kind of aggressive, which is why you don't want other fish in the clownfish harem tank, right? But it's its own beauty to look at.
Yeah, very true. So if you don't have a 200-gallon tank that is empty and full, but also full of anemones, you might not want to build a harem.
Yeah.
You've made me forget how to say it.
I mean, you can keep a small harem. You can keep a small harem in like a 40-gallon, but it's not going to last you very long, because eventually, and you want, obviously you want a wider tank, not a taller one. Other than that, it's the exact same thing.
Most people will have a pair, and even the pairing process. Obviously, the pairing process for a harem is very difficult. Even the pairing process for getting two in a tank together to like each other and hang out can be kind of difficult in and of itself. Do you have any tips or like tricks for getting a clownfish to pair?
Ideally, you want to get them small. And so let's get into clownfish pairing right after this. But yeah, normally when you talk about tank mates for a harem, right, you want very, very few other free-swimming fish. The smaller the tank, the less the tank mates. Now, harem could be anything that's like 10 clownfish, 5 clowns minimum, as long as they're all in the same area. Because otherwise, you're going to have... How to describe this? The problem is, if you have 5 clowns and you put them in a 40-gallon tank, right, they're going to split up. And you're going to have two pairs, and like one random one that's not doing very well, because it'll be stuck between the 2 pairs. But if you have a larger harem with like 10 or 15 clownfish, one, you can't do that in a 40-gallon. There's too many fish, so you need a bigger tank. Once you have the bigger tank in, it's like you really want to dedicate that to harem, which is a cycle that we've just been going through over and over. Yep. Let's look through clownfish pairing.
Yes. So the main thing you can do is, again, get them when they're young. Typically, if you're getting 2 clownfish of the same size at the store, they're from the same batch of eggs. So don't try to like breed those. But that's putting the cart before the horse. If you get them when they're small, they will tolerate each other because they recognize that they're siblings for a long time. And then at some point, one will just become more dominant and they'll be nice and happy and friendly. If you can't get 2 from the same batch, so to speak, sometimes stores will sell paired clownfish with like a slight markup. If you're worried about the pairing process, that's sometimes worth paying that markup, but usually it's easy enough to do it yourself.
They have to be the same species. That's something that a lot of newer people ask. Can I pair my Ocellaris with a tomato? Can I pair this maroon with Ocellaris, yada yada? They've got to be the same kind of species. Otherwise, you're gonna have some. It's like putting a dog with a cat.
Yeah.
Getting a pair up. You don't want them to pair up.
I mean, if you keep a dog and a cat in a big house, then it's probably fine. But if you keep them in a 20-gallon aquarium, they're gonna fight.
Fight. Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. So yeah, like Billy said, you want a smaller clown. The smaller clown, the better. I've had several instances where I've had a clown, and along my reefing career, I've had several instances where I've had one of the clowns of the pair die, and I'm like, well, now when I got to introduce another clown for the pair, right? Either through jumping or my lack of responsibility and not putting a lid on, yada yada. Yeah, you just find a smaller clown. Not saying the smallest clown, but you find a small clown one that you can kind of tell has been freshly grown or cultured, and you just drop it in with the clown that you currently have, and they'll fight a little bit or they'll pair up. What I like to do is I like to catch the current one that I have, and I get a new one and I put them in a small breeder box or an acclimation box like you mentioned earlier, and let them kind of hang out for a week or two. And that's usually how much time it takes for them to kind of pair up, which, yeah, it's like an arranged marriage kind of thing.
Some mistakes you can make: getting two similarly sized clowns, even if they're of the same species, but that are not like very clearly from the same batch of eggs.
They can be from different batches of eggs. The only problem is,
as long as they're small.
Yeah, they've got to be small. They've got to be small and ungendered. If
I
you
got
get
two
one,
wild perks that were definitely from different batches, but were relatively the same size. They looked prettier together than the other options I had, so I tried to put them in, and they just fought nonstop for 3 minutes until I took them apart again.
They've got to be, usually in the hobby, because clownfish are so spread out and so grown out, like in tanks or by breeders, yada yada. They're usually like a certain size before they're determined able to go to LFSs or whatnot. It's anywhere from like 3/4 of an inch to like an inch, where you'll see them as like freshly, like 2 months old, yada yada. At that point is when you want to nab it and put it in with your current tank. Obviously, make sure it's heating before you bring it in. You don't want to buy a freshly crown that hasn't been weaned off of rotifers yet. Rotifers are something that you feed, something that's still breeding. And we're going to have another episode down the road with a guest, which is pretty cool. But you don't want a clownfish that's not breeding currently to be put in a situation like that. Or you don't want a situation of the clown that's not eating.
Oh, for sure. What other stuff should they look out for when buying stuff at the shop?
Basic standard torn fins. If you see several clowns and you see one clownfish bigger than the others, the bigger clownfish is most likely a female. And it's just not worth taking that risk. 2 females will fight to the death. And when clownfish are first born, they're unsexed. Then they convert to male. They're all becoming males. And then when they pair up, one will become a female. So females will fight to the death.
And they go from a female back to a male? No, right?
No, never. They'll never go back. Forward.
Basically a terminal phase female. Like until they die, they will be female.
Always. And so they're different temperaments too. Some are more aggressive than others. Maroons are the most aggressive clownfish out there.
They're so mean.
They are absolutely terrible. They have a super high, and I don't mean like 1 in every 10. I mean like one of one. No, yeah, 1 of 1. No, like 8 out of every 10 maroons is going to become an absolute menace to society, to the tank. They're known to draw blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lightning. When I used to work at a fish store, there was a lightning maroon clownfish that had an entire 60-gallon long display tank, or sail tank full of anemone. Like it was our bubble tip anemones tank. It was a lightning maroon. I thought it was just like a black storm or something, but it was apparently just like a little baby maroon. And before I could even react to it, I was reaching in there trying to get a bubble tip anemone for a customer, and he got me right in between my thumb and my index finger, that little webby thing.
No way. Oh god.
Yeah. But he didn't draw. I think he drew a little bit of blood, but it could have been way, way worse. But they literally fight off turtles in the wild, so they know how to go for the soft spots.
You don't mess with them. You don't mess with maroons. That thing will.
We had to take that guy out.
It'll own your tank. Yeah. I've seen so many. I remember back when the lightning maroons first came out, there were around 5,000 to 4,000 a pop, each of them, back when the lightning maroons first came out. And then the gold ones came out, and then those jumped around 7,000.
Jeez, 7,000?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's exactly what's happening today with these new variants. It keeps spiking back up, and if you wait long enough, it'll go back down to $50, $60.
Clownfish are so easy to breed that whenever a new strain comes out, when the storms came out, they were on 150 each. But there's
Stormtrooper, right?
Yeah, Stormtrooper. No, the black storm clownfish. Whenever the storm clownfish came out, see Stormtrooper. No, whenever the black storm clownfish came out, I remember when they first came out, I got a pair of them for my birthday. And by the pair, we just got 2 little ones. Buying a pair, by the way, as designated pair is kind of overrated. Just get 2 small ones and you're good to go. They'll probably 8 out of 10 times pair up. It's
Cannonballs.
So yeah, I got them. They were around 150, and they're so easy to breed. Clownfish are so easy to breed that the hobbyists have done. People have made whole systems where all they do is breed. The breeder that we're gonna have come in actually came up with a few variants himself. Like he was the first one to breed a few variants, and there's actually a society. There's like a whole clownfish breeding society that's set up to actually.
It's not a cult; it's a lifestyle.
No, but they grade clownfish, and they identify and track the different strains of clownfish. Back when I was in college, when I was back in community college, I actually started a project where we bred clownfish. One of the cool things about it is that you can actually track, or if you don't know what Punnett squares are, they're a method or a way of sourcing probability through breeding and how genetic traits are passed down. And we studied that, or we got to see really cool examples of that in the way that clownfish were breeding. Where if you breeded regular Solaris with another one, with a variant one, depending on the variant, you can calculate the percentages of the ones that you'll get at the end. So you'd be like, oh, I'll get this many percent Picassos, this many percent this many percent Wyoming whites, this many percent frostbites, and you can actually see that come true, like come to life.
Punnett squares are only like super accurate when you know the specific genes, right?
Yeah. So now it's harder because like clownfish will have so many different variations of parents. But the true clownfish breeders out there do have like very specific strains that they've been honing and cultivating for a while. And it's really, it's like a dog show kind of thing where
it's the exact same thing. But dogs don't have 200 babies every time they lay eggs, and also they don't lay eggs. So it should be faster and cheaper than dog breeding, but for some reason,
and
they're still really expensive.
Yeah, well, they're relatively expensive. They're more expensive than before. They've gone up in price, definitely, but everything else in the hobby has. So yeah, when you first introduce two clownfish to bond, there's going to be some aggression. There's going to be chasing and squabbling. That's normal. As long as you don't see one of the clownfish coming out with torn fins and bleeding and like really bad injuries, that's normal. A little bit of nipping and chasing is fine. And then after that, one of them will get larger gradually, and that'll become the female. The smaller, more submissive one is the male. And so you'll know that they host, or that they pair, because if you have a nem, they'll both start hosting on the same nem. And you'll know that they have a pair because they'll be, swimming together. They'll just stay together.
Killing each other. The male also does a submission dance.
It's really cool. One of them bites and it just kind of shakes violently, like it's having a seizure. Which I guess isn't as cool when you say it, but that's kind of what happens essentially.
Well, they don't have to get bitten. I think like when the female is setting boundaries at first, there might be like some nips. But they'll just do it.
The female nips at the male, and then the male does a little dance. That's what I've seen happen.
Yeah. So just like humans.
Yep. Basically. Why are you so naggy? She said. Oh god.
Do a little dance.
Yeah. So once you have a pair, though, you should be aware that clownfish can get aggressive, especially if they're breeding. If clownfish are breeding, they're gonna protect that area with their lives, and I mean they don't care how big whatever comes up to it is. They'll fight you for the protection of their eggs. I mean, some of them don't get that aggressive. Some of them don't care. Clownfish breeding in the aquarium, like the parents will probably eat the fry. Usually, yeah, because of the point we're in a hobby where they've been so inbred and so adapted to the aquarium living that they'll probably just eat the fry.
Yeah, so if you're gonna like try to rear clownfish fry, be very deliberate about it. It's gonna take like at least 3 years for you to get a breeding pair of clownfish because they have to get big enough.
The number of times that you see where it's like, oh, my clownfish laid eggs, how do I hatch them? You're not. Realistically, that clutch of eggs is not gonna hatch for you, my guy. And if they do, it's just fish food.
Yeah. And that's what happens in nature. So like you're not a particularly horrible person
in
for replicating nature.
In nature, they'll take care more of the fry, but it's more of like a passed down generational trait kind of thing. Nowadays, clownfish don't really know that. They'll mainly just eat the fry. You can down the road breed them. I mean, if they're breeding, they'll lay eggs every 2 to 3 weeks, and they'll just rinse and repeat. And they'll just keep on doing that cycle. But in the wild, the most that they'll do is lay the eggs, and then you'll see them do a little more. Where the second time they lay eggs, they'll fan them out, and then they'll actually start cleaning them. And it's actually really cool as you see the clownfish progress. The level of care that they give to the eggs also progresses, but it'll never get to the point where the clownfish will raise the eggs from fry in your tank, mainly because we don't have that kind of diversity and there's too many predators in the home tank to actually do that.
Too many predators and not enough food sources. So the main like jump forward in clownfish breeding, like in captivity, that we experienced is when we figured out how to culture rotifers, because rotifers are one of the only few foods small enough for baby clownfish to eat.
Yep.
And you probably don't have a self-sustaining rotifer population in your 20-gallon reef tank.
No, probably not. Realistically, probably.
But yeah, if that's something you want to do, it's totally possible. You just have to be deliberate about it and be patient, just like with any other aspect of the reefing hobby.
But yeah, essentially, it's actually a pretty cool process. I love clownfish, mainly because of how like diverse and how complex they are. Fish of the week, clownfish.
What a coincidence.
Wow, isn't that crazy? Wasn't that a fish of the week last week?
Probably not.
I think it was.
Let's be better and pick a specific type of clownfish.
All right, Billy, take it away. What kind of clownfish you want to do?
Oh shit. Well, I thought you were gonna pick one. Let's do the skunk clownfish.
All right, tell me about the skunk clownfish.
Well, it's pink and it has a white stripe on its back like a skunk. So obviously the genius scientists who first discovered them decided to name them skunk clownfish, even though they look literally nothing like a skunk. They just have a white stripe on them. Yeah, there's two different types. There's the pink and the orange. And there might be, are there more types?
Well, normally they're yellow-orange and they have like a white, or they'll have like a little color stripe going from the nose to the base of the tail. And that's the part that resembles the skunk stripe. The white part, not the little thing in the back.
I was mispicturing them in my brain. I'm stupid.
Some of them have like edging. They'll grow around 3 to 4 inches. They're really, really cool. They're usually found in the Great Barrier Reef or in the Western Pacific Ocean, Northern Australia. And they're pretty cool. I mean, they form a symbiotic relationship with them too.
I want to call out that Banana totally threw me under the bus and tried to make me improv a bunch of random things about pink skunk clownfish while he Googled them. Because it says it literally on Wikipedia.
No clue. What? This is kind of information. You just kind of know these things on the road. Yeah.
Okay. I believe you.
Yeah, but otherwise they're standard as they're standard care for most clowns. They're bred in captivity. There's different variations of skunk clowns now, which is pretty cool. But it's usually skunk clowns. Brought to you by Billy.
Yeah.
Sponsored.
They're not as popular as like the really, really bright orange ones in the hobby because people like, highlighter bright, glowy stuff. Like I do too. But they're very cool. And they look really grumpy, but I do think they're less grumpy in actuality than
all clownfish are grumpy.
Like other like maroon clownfish and stuff.
All clownfish look grumpy. Clownfish are, okay, as much as I love clownfish, if you look at them up close, they are the most god-ugly creatures known to man. If you ever see a picture of a clownfish up close, the way their mouth is just always gaping, it's all
and they have
ugly.
little
They're
teeth,
very,
but they're bad.
very ugly fish, yeah.
They have little teeth, but they're really bad teeth.
Clownfish are disgustingly ugly fish. But you love them. You learn to love them. They always have a like dumb, confused look on their faces.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cute.
It's really cool. Really cool. Yeah. That's
I think that's it.
Any questions from the audience?
Celestial asked, will a fake anemone host more beneficial bacteria than live anemones because of the absence of venom? And I answered them in chat, but I mean, technically, yes.
Wait, what was the question?
Beneficial bacteria, so like more surface recycling bacteria, which is technically true. But my answer that I also put in chat was not measurably.
Yeah. So live anemones have more natural surfaces for bacteria to colonize.
Because they lance the shit out of anything that tries to grow on them.
Right, but bacteria are much, much smaller.
No,
Yeah, bacteria,
they're the size of nematocysts. The nematocyst is one cell.
Right. No, nematocysts aren't one cell. They're composed of cells. Pretty
Fine. Keep going. Whatever. I guess you have a point to make. Go for it.
Really salty.
No.
Yeah, no, nematocytes are cells. But nematocysts are a group of cells.
Oh, oops. Oh, because there's cyst yet. Okay. Oh, here we go. Sayans asks, what is the minimum tank size for an anemone?
Anemone, ideally, you want to go with a 30-gallon tank or larger for an anemone. And that's considering what other stuff you want to keep in there. But for things like a bubble tip or, most basic nems, you want to go with a 30-gallon. Larger stuff like a rittery or most carpets, you want at least a 50-gallon tank.
Mm-hmm.
Some nems, like Giganteas, you want really big tanks for.
Mm-hmm. The local fish store that inspired me to buy carpet anemones has 2 carpets that are like probably maximum size almost, about 2 feet in diameter each.
Yeah.
They're in like a 300-gallon lagoon, basically, with an 80-gallon sump. So, but if you want to get anemones and you don't really have the space, you could very easily get like a carpet anemone or a rock flower, but you probably shouldn't expect a clownfish to host those unless you're really patient or lucky.
Yeah.
Usually with those smaller anemones, there are other commensal symbiotic species that live on them that you can get, but not clownfish just because they're so small and specialized.
Yeah.
For example, mini maxi carpets can host sexy shrimp, but they probably won't host a clownfish. Tube anemones could probably go in like a 20-gallon, but those are really tricky to find healthy and they're really tricky to feed. But I mean, if you can keep them, they're really cool and they're really worth it. I think the 2 things you have to plan around rather than like actual tank size is the fact that the anemone will move. They're mostly sessile once they find a place that they like.
Ooh,
nice. They're mostly sessile.
You're sessile.
Yeah, true.
Space, when it comes to aquariums, space and width or length are always preferable over depth. If you have the option between getting a wide and a long tank versus a deep one,
and that's like
wider.
For context, that's the flat dimensions of it. So the how far it extends away from you and how wide it is, like from left to right.
Yeah.
Rather than how high it is above the thing. Yeah. So the 300-gallon is like really, really deep. So it doesn't look like 300 gallons, but because it's so wide, it can host those carpet anemones while saving a lot of space for other corals and fish and stuff. So that thing is absolutely packed because he focused on horizontal real estate rather than vertical.
Yes.
Yeah. I just discovered the white bonnet clownfish, which is really cute. And I kind of want to put those in my Gigantea now.
What, the skunks?
Yeah. It's called white bonnet. They have like a little hat.
Oh, yeah, the little bow on top.
It's very cute.
Oh my god. You should get the pair of Madagascars. Clownfish can get expensive. A lot of people don't think about it, but Madagascars, for example, will range you a couple hundreds. And some clownfish can go for a couple thousands.
Mm-hmm. Just like any hobby, there's like a quote-unquote high-end, which is mostly just artificial.
I'm not talking about like types of clownfish, like types of ocellaris. I'm talking about individual species of clownfish that can go for a couple for that much. Which one's the one that goes for a lot? Yeah.
Macalakai.
Yeah, the white bonnets. White bonnets will go for a pair.
For what?
So, you can get a pair for like $1,500.
Oh, that's not worth it. I'll just get the ugly ones.
They're really, really cute though.
That's true. What about Macalakai? What do those sell for?
Macalakai aren't really frequently brought in. Although Macalakai are currently, they're being tank bred. Some Macalakai aren't going for that much.
Talk about an ugly one. These are just like black blobs with a little white nose and a white tail. Ooh, another question. Do you think RFA and Euphilia will be okay together?
Yes. RFA and Euphilia are fine together.
Yeah.
Yes, they will do fine together. RFAs are very frequently found by people, hobbies, and reef tanks. Rock flowers are kind of hard because you'll find different gradings of them.
They can't touch.
Rock flowers can touch one another. They cannot touch Euphilia. Rock flower and Euphilia will fight if they touch one another.
Yeah, most unique species of coral and anemone will fight anything that they touch. That's because that's how they evolved to be this big, is they need to fight for their space and keep it.
Yep. That's it. Well, if you have no more questions, thank you guys for joining us on today's episode of Slice of the Reef. Oh, we have one more question from Sayans. All right.
Wait.
Sayans, what do you got?
Oh, I don't know shit about clownfish.
He knows more
Stuff
about
like banana.
clownfish.
Banana knows more about everything than I do.
What do you have to? What's he asking?
Oh, no.
See it? No?
No, I mean, if you start getting proud about how much you think you know about the world, you're an idiot.
I know absolutely nothing. It's actually that one of my favorite quotes is that, like, compared to how much there is to know about reefing and about the ocean and about keeping coral, we and I, like me personally, but we as a group know almost nothing. Like, we don't even know how zooxanthellae works. Like, we keep coral. Our entire hobby structure around these creatures in the realm coral, but we don't know how zooxanthellae works and how the symbiosis, the relationship between coral and trace elements work. It's really crazy.
And anyone who pretends that they know a lot.
Yeah. Every day we're discovering new things, and it's always due to the people that are willing to test things. Like,
hey, don't interrupt me. Hey. Just kidding.
Wow.
Anyone who excuse me. Wow. Anyone who pretends that they know a lot is probably either knows very little or is not a reliable source for that information. Like, if you know an astrophysicist who pretends to know how gravity works, we still don't freaking know how gravity works.
I think we proved it a few years ago. Like, we still don't know how it works, but we just proved it.
Hey, you instigated. And now you're trying to spam us to get us to answer another probably inflammatory question. Listen, Sayans, listen, kid.
Fighting Sayans.
Clown is in a 15 as mech, and I push it and have 2 in there. I would
avoid that because they're gonna get really aggressive.
If you're advanced.
Even then.
So, like, eventually.
It's just not much room for clownfish.
I mean, my perks are in a 8-gallon right now, but this is a temporary shitty solution.
Your aquascape was a beaker for like a month and a half.
It wasn't actually an aquascape. It was a treatment solution for me to inspect the anemone on all sides while it was being treated.
Okay, and what's the excuse for the mug?
The mug was before I realized there was a wound on the foot. Because normally you don't have to, like, inspect the anemone's foot when it's being treated.
A random peeker asks, what can I use for my rock word that isn't strong enough that I can't take it apart? So what was recommended to you previously was Emarco 400, but the trick to that is you want to build it in parts. Don't build one giant scape and put it together. Yeah. Build it in parts. And also, if you're talking about trying to get coral, hey, Billy, hey, Billy.
Yeah, see how annoying it is?
Billy, please don't.
See how annoying it is when
talking. The person's talking.
No, silence. A white man needs to speak. Okay, continue. Sorry,
colonizer. But, just build it in parts. Yeah, just build it in parts. Build it in parts. Put it together. That's what I do, especially in my center tank. I have a little island, like a tall pillar kind of island, a centerpiece where I have my Chicago's on. And I built that specifically with the idea that I would eventually need to take it apart eventually, So I build a foundation and that part's on the bottom, and then I build another piece on top. And the top half of the rock is able to be lifted up, moved out of the water. And the way that I made it is so that when I put it down, the weight of the rock kind of holds it into place either. So the Chicago's live happily on there. Whenever it splits, I'll let it split 3 or 4 times. And then I remove that entire thing up and out, the entire top half. And it's a lot of water spilling. Obviously, it's going to happen. But I put it into a basin, remove all the NEMs, and then put the thing back in there. And that's it, basically. Another pro tip, which we will talk about when we do an aquascaping video or episode, is if you want to have things like LPS and coral, rely a lot on rock rubble. Gluing rubble onto your tank and then gluing coral on said rubble means that all you need to do is just remove the rubble and you're good to go. All of my LPS, the hammers, the torches, everything is glued on the rock, and then that rock is glued onto the aquascape. so that if I ever need to remove it, I just remove the overall rock, and I'm not dealing with like trying to stick a stalk into the rock while the whole weight of the colony is trying to tip it over. And if at any point you're thinking of using PVC, don't. Okay, Saiyans asked, how long can zoas be out of the water for? Depends on the zoas. But I wouldn't do more than like 30 minutes if you wanted to come back normally.
Just get like a spritz bottle. Or don't use a spritz bottle, use like a turkey baster and just like baste it with water every now and then.
Yep.
Just don't let it dry out. And also use a mask if you're going to be actively drying zoas out near you, because they're going to be squirting paleotoxin into the air.
Good stuff. It's just protein. It's protein.
No, yeah, it's like
you
half an
got
hour.
time. Those are hardy.
I mean, in the wild, they're probably out of the water for much longer, like when the tides go down.
Yeah.
But you want to not put them through that stress, just in case they're not a tidal species.
Most zoas aren't. Although there are some that are. But yeah. All right.
Cool.
Is that all the questions? All right.
Okay. That concludes another episode of Slice of the Roof. Slice of the Roof. That concludes another episode of Slice of the Reef. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you again next time.
Yeah. Billy, you want to say the thing?
No, you say it.
No, it's your thing.
Farewell and easy reefing. Thank you for listening to another episode of Slice of the Reef.
Your number one podcast for all things fishy, with your hosts, Giancarlo and Billy. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else that podcasts are held. That way, you'll never miss an episode. If you want to be a part of our podcast, join us on discord.xyz/Slice of the Reef, where we'll be recording in front of a live audience. We also give you a moment at the end of every episode for a live Q&A session, and we're very interactive with our fans. So we'd love for you to join. You can also check out our website for articles, guides, calculators, and information on our upcoming episodes at sliceofthereef.org. Hope to see you guys soon.
Farewell and easy reefing.